Hi, I'm Jenni Pastusak, and this is The Local Lens. This show is all about the community. We're going to talk to politicians, nonprofits, business owners, and decision makers here in Wicomico County about things that impact you who live here, work here, and play here in Wicomico County. My first guest is Dave Ryan, Salisbury-Wicomico Economic Development Executive Director. Glad you're here, Dave. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jenny. Good luck with the show. Thanks for stepping up, and thanks for having me on the set today.
Of course.
Glad to be here.
I think I want to just help everyone understand what SWED is and what you do. So if you could give us a little background on SWED, that will help.
Sure. We were established in 1968, and for whatever reason, in 1967, the Chris-Craft Corporation, who made boats here, stopped manufacturing boats, and that impacted hundreds of jobs to our community. So the community back in '67 came together and says, there's something we can do to mitigate this from happening in the future, while at the same time attracting new investment to the community. So we were established through community efforts, and we're still here 56 years later. We've stayed pretty true to the core mission of SWED, more affectionately, thank you for the introduction, in that industrial space. So if you look at some of the past projects, we were instrumental in working with the folks starting Northwood Industrial Park. It's a 250-acre industrial park, hundreds and hundreds of jobs in the park today. Westwood Commerce Park more recently, and that was started in the early 2000s, the Air Business Center at the airport. We helped in the downtown area with the old hotel and Chesapeake Shipbuilding and Arts and Entertainment District, the Enterprise Zone. We were the first county in Maryland, I think, to establish an Enterprise Zone back in 1982. And then lots of work at the airport. There's an industrial park at the airport. We're doing a lot of work today, and I know you have some questions on that, and we'll gladly answer. But a lot of work at the airport, port facilities, things of that nature. We were asked to divert from our industrial roots during the pandemic as we deployed about a little under $14 million of CARES and ARPA money to the small business community. Really challenging time for our community, but a meaningful exercise for us at SWED. We were glad to do it. And here we are today. So 56 years later, still kind of focused on that space, that industrial space, but wanting to help grow our economy locally and regionally.
Sure, and let's start it out with boats. I really do want to dig into the airport because we're going to talk about flight because we have a lot to talk about.
Sure.
Let's talk about what's going on at the airport. We have runway extension. We have maybe a new carrier. We've got a lot going on there.
Sure. The runway extension, I think, is top of everyone's mind. It's been on the plate for a while. And I was here when we went from 5,500 feet to 6,400 feet, and that was about a 7 or 8 year process. So
it's a big deal.
So it's a big deal. It's not an insignificant expense. It's not an insignificant time frame. But once you do it, it pays great benefits. So we have a 6,400 foot runway now. We're going to 7,600 feet. And the groundbreaking has started, but it's kind of been on hold with the recent weather conditions. But it'll pick back up in the spring, and that should be completed in the latter part of the summer in 2026.
And for extending the runway, that means what? Larger, more people on flights that can land?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't equate size of plane with length of runway. It's more design of plane and the length of runway needed. So some of the larger planes that are flying in and out of Salisbury, some of the aircraft that are with the U.S. military, touch and goes, we're good.
Okay.
And 737, we're good. But these small planes, the 50-seater, which is what's flying in and out of Salisbury by Piedmont Airlines, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of American. That's who's providing our scheduled airline service at this time to Philadelphia and Charlotte. The Embraer 145s need a longer runway, even for 50 seats versus some of the 200-seat planes. It's just the design of the aircraft itself. So what that does, to answer your question, is they can't always fill the seats. They can't sell 100% of their seats all the time. So you need to have, based on the weather conditions, based on if they're going to Charlotte versus Philadelphia, they need additional fuel for diversionary measures and airports and things like that. So what this runway does then is allow them to sell all their seats. So it's a very meaningful extension for the airline. It allows some corporate aircraft to go coast to coast too without refueling. So I don't think you would meet too many pilots or passengers, frankly, that really want shorter runway lengths. So the longer we can go, the better off I think we all are. And I'm not sure this is our last extension, but but this will happen over the next couple of years, and that's a good thing.
What a great asset, though, too. I mean, we have it. We might as well use it to, the extent that we can.
Sure, and not every community has an airport, right? We're fortunate.
No.
We're blessed to have an airport,
Yeah.
and not only the residents of the area, depending on this airport, but the business community. You can connect a lot of dots from businesses that are locating here to the flights that were offered out of Salisbury. So.
Absolutely. And then I like this one, Orlando. Let's go to sunny Florida for a little bit.
Yeah, so that helps attract additional carriers. I know the airport team. And let me say something right now. The Wicomico County, the executive's office, the council. We got a top-notch airport crew. Very engaged airport commission. Really all on the same page with this airport, and that's why I think you're seeing a lot of good things happening at the airport. So I wanted to give a shout out to that because we couldn't do it without the partnerships. Everything I mentioned before about SWED was not SWED alone. It was in partnerships with many others. So, but yes, they've identified an air carrier to provide service to South Florida. And hopefully that starts up at the end of the spring this year, 2025, maybe in the summer of 2025. But of the flying public in our catchment area here, we capture about 15%. The people getting on a plane, 15% of them roughly fly out of Salisbury.
Okay.
Which means 85% drive. They drive to Baltimore,
PWI.
they drive to Philadelphia, they drive to Washington, they drive to Norfolk, or drive to Dulles.
Yeah.
So, and when they do that, the number one destination point is the South Florida market. So it's called leakage. So we're leaking some of those passengers we think we could capture. So we've been trying to recruit new airlines over the years without cannibalizing the existing service that we have now. So I think they're onto something there, and I think they're wrapping up some of those contractual agreements as we speak. So that's why service to the market area, the South Florida market area is simply that's where passengers want to go, and that's where most of them are driving to other airports to get to.
It's so convenient to, when you land, you're home. You're home.
Right.
You don't have to get in your car and drive 2.5 hours.
Right.
I mean, that's a convenience.
No, it's a convenience, and if you start calculating some of those costs, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. But if they can work, if there are good connections, if the pricing is right, then it's a beautiful model flying out of Salisbury.
And I know that the aviation technician school, we're going to talk about that because that's more critical, I think, than most everything. We need to make sure that these planes that we are flying on are safe.
Yeah, well, that, and it's an anchor for the airlines here. So Piedmont, again, wholly owned of American, and we're flying American under the brand of American Eagle here. We knew prior to the pandemic that there was a shortage of A&P mechanics. These are airframe and power plant credentialed mechanics.
Okay.
It's a highly valued credential in the aviation industry. We knew there was a shortage, and we were working on what could we do to fill that pipeline. We also believed that that shortage would be exacerbated on the other side of the pandemic. So planes weren't flying, they were laying off pilots, laying off mechanics, and now all of a sudden the demand came out with a really robust demand for flights. So if you're flying today, it's less direct flights. The pricing is kind of high. Planes are kind of full. And that's just simply not enough aircraft in the air, not enough pilots. And then if you don't have the pilots, you don't have the mechanics. But that's changing. And So the more pilots are coming back. We have 6 flights out of Salisbury today,
Okay.
which is more than we've had in 5, 6, 7 years. And I think you'll see that increase in the future. And the more planes that get up in the air, the more mechanics you need. But the maintenance base is an important consideration. The other bases that Piedmont has is Albany, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Roanoke, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Charlotte, and Philadelphia, and Salisbury. And we're smack in the middle. So if there's a problem within their distribution system or their market area for Piedmont, this is a great place to land. It's one of the more efficient maintenance bases. And I think that goes back to Mr. Henson and the culture at the airlines itself. It's just a great culture. And the more I've worked with those professionals over at Piedmont, the more you see that culture. And they can fix anything on an aircraft. And things go wrong, and,
They do.
and you do want to, you're right, you want to be safe, you want to be fixed. But so we think we can start this school, and we've got great partners in Wicomico County, the state of Maryland, Piedmont Airlines, and the University of Maryland Eastern Shore will run this aviation maintenance technician program for us. It's an FAA certified program. It's a Part 147. And in exchange for spending 12 months of intense study and work, you can sit for the A&P exam and become a certified aircraft and power plant mechanic. Again, a very valued credential in the industry. We have jobs here that are waiting and committed by Piedmont to hire these folks and other carriers that could come to the area or other corporate aircraft on the base now. But wherever these students are and wherever they end up, if they're close to an airport, they'll have a job. And these are family supporting jobs.
I was going to say, that's
right out of
workforce
high
development.
school.
Yeah.
Investing in workforce development. Somebody out of high school can come into this program. And again, it's 1,900 hours, 1 year. The first year we may go a little bit more than 1 year, but then it'll get back into that 12-month cycle. But in exchange, they've got a great job, and it could be right here.
Right.
And that's also the way to grow the airport, right? Because everybody else wants the same thing. They need good mechanics to work on the planes. So we think if you look at our economy and it's grounded in agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare, and higher education, and distribution is becoming an important component. And now add aviation and aeronautics to that mix. It just makes us more resilient and gives us, buffers us in down economic cycles and gives us more opportunities in more expansive economic cycles.
We have to think about that, the advantage you have in a down economic cycle, and that's something that...
Right. A wise man once told me that some of his best, he did his best growing and sometimes in down economic cycles.
Yeah.
And what I think he meant was that while everyone else was just trying to survive, he was acquiring, he was building market share. So when the economy has come back, then you're on a different tier. And I haven't forgotten that, and I think it was wise words.
Absolutely. I do, real quick, we're going to talk about Hop Flight, because this is cool, it's coming, and people just need to know that it's out there.
Yeah. Hop Flight, county built a UAS hangar. This is unmanned aircraft system, drones. And they've landed in our, no pun intended, I guess, and the hangar at the airport. It's called Hop Flight, and they're in the unmanned electrified space. So it's called eVTOLs. These are electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. So it takes off like a helicopter, and off it goes.
Okay.
So if you Google, if your listeners at home, Google eVTOLs, a lot of things will come up, and you'll see where we are in that particular space. But it's an innovative company, very high technology engineering company, and we're starting to get into what kind of markets are they serving, some defense markets and some commercial markets. So they're teaming with a company called SRS that does this out of Wallops now, and on a defense basis and more institutional basis. But lots of opportunities in that space, from delivering packages to surveying electric lines and farm fields and
delivering people
and some more. No, well, there are people, but these guys are focused on the unmanned drones at this point. But if you look again, you Google and lots of information will come up, and they will one day deliver people, and it's not very far away. It's not going to replace commuter airline service anytime
Sure.
soon, but they're in that space.
You had mentioned,
yeah.
I didn't mean to
Sorry.
cut you off, but
No.
you had mentioned like getting from one airport to another real quickly for the price of an Uber.
Right, right. And some of these companies like Joby Aviation and some others are in that space where you know, realtors are leasing tops of parking garages in Manhattan to take you to Newark for about the price of an Uber. Uber's an investment, Toyota's investing. So a lot of big capital going into those dollars. Maryland's establishing, and it's called Advanced Air Mobility, and an Advanced Air Mobility Council. So that the airports within Maryland are clued into what the future might hold. Again, it's not today and it's not tomorrow, but it's coming in some shape or form. And,
We need to be clued in.
yeah,
for
so
sure.
it's good to be on that cutting edge of technology and ahead of the game as opposed to playing catch up sometimes.
We're going to pivot a little bit to the parks, you know, Westwood Commerce Park. Let's talk about development and, you know, what we have available, who we're looking to attract as far as, you know, the business parks here in Wicomico County.
Thank you. And if you take a look at Westwood Commerce Park, Northwood was our first fully served industrial park, and it's 95% built out. And there's not a lot of land, especially large spaces in which to construct large facilities. So Westwood is seeing a lot of action these days, especially in the industrial construction, something we haven't seen in some time.
Okay.
St. John Properties has found us. They acquired 16 acres or so in Westwood Commerce Park, and they're surveying some other properties throughout the community. It's a large developer out of Baltimore. They have a nationwide presence. And if you ride by on Route 50, you'll see right on the border of Route 50, trees came down and they're going through that site work now.
What's something why here? What attracted them here?
Well, I think I'll tell you a story, and we're far from political at SWED,
Sure.
but when the county executive was elected, she called me up and said, "Look, I'm having a function here, and I know you don't get political, but I want to introduce you to a gentleman from St. John Properties." And I said, "Okay, well, if that's the case, then we'll go." And that's how it started. And for the last couple of years, we've been showing them the community and trying to convince them this is a great investment. So they're placing a pretty big bet on Salisbury. So they're this initial construction is about a $35 million investment. And I think you'll see a couple hundred jobs in that particular facility when it's all said and done. So they have a very professional group. They have a large database of clients and tenants, and we're not that proud to not work with them.
Sure.
No, we're attracting new investment to the community. So that's happening. There's a couple of other projects. One, a company that we'll talk more about as 25 goes along, that's investing in a larger plant and nearing 90,000 square feet or so. Again, it's another $25 million investment and probably a significant job creating venture, working with a partner on that one. We're doing a shovel-ready site ourselves with SWED and Westwood. And the goal here, Jen, is to shorten the construction cycle. So the site work is what takes so long. So if you look at a lot in industrial construction, it's vacant, and then all of a sudden you see bulldozers and front end loaders and dump trucks and piles of dirt, and then they're working and they stop, and then they work a little bit more and they dig a stormwater management pond and they stop.
Yeah.
But they're going through that permit process, and that's what takes so long. It's 18 months, 24 months, and then once they start construction, people say, "Wow, that building went up pretty fast," right? So that's the goal, is to get to closer to construction. Let's address those permitting issues right now. Let's design a large building. In our case, it's up to 200,000 square feet, a high bay. This is different than St. John. St. John is more flex space. It's smaller.
Okay.
Ours is for a single user, lots of jobs, and lots of tax base, and we're willing to be patient to do that. But that allows us, by shortening that construction cycle and designing a building, allows us to better compete for larger scale economic development projects. So we're doing that in Westwood. We're also doing it at the airport. We're doing a couple of sites out there with hangar construction for the same reason. How can we shorten the construction cycle?
How do you do that?
Well, we do the upfront permitting now, and that's what we're doing. So we'll design this building, and this is how it's going to sit on the lot, and then we'll go through the stormwater management. We'll go through water and sewer extensions. We'll go through electric extensions so that someone can literally come in and maybe tweak the design of the building a little bit, but everything in the site is done. So we'll do that 18 months right now. So when we do get someone, they can go right straight to construction. The shorter we can make the construction cycle, the quicker we can add jobs and the quicker we can add tax base, and that's what we all want. And so we're doing that in Westwood with a partner, and also at the airport.
And we want to, when we have vacant space, there are certain industries we're looking to attract, and we don't have to say who they are,
right.
who those businesses are, but there are certain industries that we just think will fit best here.
Right. And I'm not trying to be clandestine about this thing,
No.
but I don't have to tell our competitors who we're working with either. So
no, that's okay.
At the same time, but yes, having the real estate is a major driver of economic development. Workforce development is a major driver of economic development. So we're investing in workforce development. We started a welding school not too long ago, and I think you can trace the growth of Chesapeake Shipbuilding, for instance, right back to the establishment of that welding school. And I think whoever's sitting around these tables 10 years from today, I think can trace some of that growth at the airport right back to the establishment of the school that we're doing. So, but larger scale manufacturing, larger scale distribution companies have lots of jobs. I think are certainly fair game and something we're designing these larger buildings for. And then at the hangar side, it's not just scheduled airline service. It's just not like Piedmont Airlines or some other air carriers, but also aeronautic companies, defense-oriented companies, corporate aircraft that are fair game in terms of locating here, which adds jobs and employs the talent that we're creating.
So I'm going to throw you for a loop.
Okay.
Let's look ahead. This is 2025, new year. As you look, through the year, what do you see coming our way? What does Wicomico County have to look forward to as far as growth and development? Sure.
Well, I think what new airline we've mentioned, just the activity in the industrial parks, and I'll include Northwood because we do have a new manufacturer that purchased a building a couple of years ago and is building a new manufacturing plant today. I can't get ahead of the company, but so just those activities in Westwood and Northwood are totaling in the $75 million range, probably 300 job range. So I think we'll see more of that we'll see that materialize in 2025 and 2026, maybe even to 2027. You'll see a new carrier here in 2025. You'll see a new fixed-based operator coming at the airport. I think you'll see some shovel-ready sites at the airport and Westwood. Lots of growth downtown, and we'll get through some of the issues there. But it will happen, and it's a beautiful community.
Do you want to talk about the Market Center downtown?
If you want to talk about it,
we could touch on it.
There's the opponents and proponents have done a valid job, a great job of both points of view. We haven't waded in those waters. We stayed into the industrial space. At the same time, I'm hopeful that there's a path forward that we can accommodate the concerns on both sides, and how can the public sector work with that private sector, and really promoting that downtown. And it's easy to sit here and say that. I understand that, but at the same time, there must be a pathway forward, and there's lots of hurdles yet to go, and development projects like the town center. But it's something we all want the same thing. That's a vibrant downtown. Is what does that look like? So now we have the Performing Arts Center, and downtowns would love to have that in the middle of their downtown. But how do we manage that so that there's 10 years from today, there's not a deterrent for people to go downtown? They can't find parking, for instance, and things like that, and no one really wants that. So I think if we communicate and there's probably more in common than not. It's just how do we work together toward that, and what does that look like going forward?
And I think everything that you have mentioned and talked about today, it does kind of draw back to jobs. We're creating jobs and the workforce here. So, we need to make sure we have people to fill those jobs. And I think, that's on the other
true.
side.
Yeah, I mean, you want to create that environment, both from residential and industrial and commercial, where people and businesses want to be.
Yes.
Right, and there's got to be an attraction for that, and we're not short on competitive communities trying to create that same environment and attract other investment to their communities either.
For people who want to live here, work here,
Sure.
and play here.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. That was quick, but thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us at The Local Lens. My name is Jenni Pastusak. I'll see you next time.